All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. I think we've had most people log in now. We're a couple minutes past the top of the hour. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Kelly Horton. I am on the marketing team here at ShipHawk and just wanted to cover a few housekeeping items before I jump in and let our panelists today introduce themselves. We'll be emailing a link to the recording of the webinar. So if you want to share this with your friends or coworkers, you'll get an email in about 24 hours after we conclude today with a link to the recording. And we want to keep this interactive. We want to hear from you all. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom to type in any questions that you have. We will try to answer as many of those on the call today. We'll try to save a few minutes at the end to answer some questions. But if we do not get to answer all of your questions, we will make sure that one of our team members follows up with you afterwards to get all of your burning questions answered. And lastly, you will see a survey pop up at the end of on your screen at the end of the webinar. Just, tell us what you think. We want to hear from you all, how the content was today. If you enjoyed the webinar, please feel free to share any feedback with us. I do want you all to be aware, ShipHawk and SPS will be at these events coming up. How many of you all are planning on being at Sweet World or Community Summit? Feel free to drop a yes or no in the chat box and let us know if you're going to be there. And please feel free to stop by our booths and say hello. So before we get started and I hand it over to our guest today to kind of do a quick introduction, I want to give everybody or just kind of give our panelists an idea of what your business looks like and how much of your business is really involved EDI orders. So I'm going to pull up this survey here. If you don't mind, you should be seeing a survey on your screen. What percentage of your business comes from EDI orders? Maybe you're doing just a little bit or none at all, and you're looking to expand, and that's why you're here today. Maybe you're doing, kind of a quarter to a half, or maybe you do a large number and a majority of your business comes from it. So go ahead and select your answer there, and I'll share the results with our panelists so we can kind of have an idea of who we're joined with today and make sure we're giving y'all the best information. So it looks like we're still waiting on a few people. Jonathan, why don't I go ahead and hand it over to you to do a quick intro while we're closing out this poll, and then I'll share the results with everybody if you want to get us started.
Yeah, that sounds great. So hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan. I'm one of our product managers here at ShipHawk, and my main area that I oversee is both our user interface, or what our shippers are using to interface with the platform, and also with our integrations. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to close the survey now so y'all can get an idea. And with that, Billy, if you want to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. My name's Billy Gahn. I work at SPS Commerce in our channel sales team. I've been at SPS, though, for about 10 years in a variety of roles. I've worked in the implementation space, in multiple products at SPS. I've also been a solution engineer at SPS for 4.5 years or so. So I definitely have a bit of experience in a variety of areas and can help you out if we have questions throughout this. Looks like a good mix of people on the call with experience with EDI, some without. So definitely happy to help answer any questions that people have about EDI in general, or the process that we've built here between SPS and ShipHawk. So looking forward to getting to know everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like we've got some veterans here that are doing a large number, as well as those kind of just doing a small amount, maybe looking to expand. So I think y'all will have a lot of information to share. And like I said, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box. We'll try to answer those as we get going here. And with that, I will hand it over to you guys to take us away.
Great. So I'll go ahead and get started. So today our main focus is going to be on the TMS solution, the ShipHawk Transport Management System solution, and its connection to SPS. But I want to take a minute to discuss at a high level what ShipHawk brings to the table. ShipHawk's main goal is to improve warehouse efficiency and accuracy using a wide variety of flexible solutions with both our WMS and TMS applications. ShipHawk allows you to bring all of your fulfillment needs across multiple channels into one piece of software. So instead of having to rely on different pieces of software for specific tasks, ShipHawk is able to complete both WMS and TMS needs across all sales channels. So we have a unified solution. Move to the next slide. So we have what we call a unified solution, and our primary customer base is generally with mid-market companies that have outgrown similar pieces of software and are in need of something a little more powerful that can automate more steps. At this stage, you might need to customize your fulfillment process to meet specific needs for specific customers, and a one-size-fits-all solution generally isn't ideal. So at ShipHawk, we are able to provide our customers with a customizable solution along with knowledge on best practices, a highly personable support experience, and a continuously improving product. On top of that, we also have a large customer base with NetSuite. So we have over 700 distribution centers across North America. So our NetSuite integration is highly robust and flexible and enables a lot of people to be very successful with meeting their specific use cases. And with that, I do want to move on to another poll before I hand it back to Billy. I'm just kind of curious on our end, what is your biggest pain point when fulfilling EDI orders?
Yes, so we'll take just another minute to fill in the survey. And Billy, I think you're up next.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Kelly. I think while people kind of fill that out, if we want to go to just the next slide, a little bit of background on SPS for anybody that's maybe not familiar with SPS before I'll jump into more specifics on the NetSuite side of things. But at SPS, we've gone and we've built what we call sort of the world's retail network. So I saw, Hal had a question about 3PL warehouses and integrations there. As part of our network at SPS, we do connect with over 1,000 3PLs. In addition to, the reusable connections we reference here with, system partner relationships like with NetSuite and ShipHawk, but also working with those other systems that some 3PLs may use, the buying organizations that are sending you all purchase orders, or that you might want to be a buying organization sending purchase orders out to suppliers or vendors. The SPS network is really built to be reusable. Obviously, there's uniqueness with every one of those connections, but I'll talk a little bit about how we can standardize that within the SPS network. But as you'll see here on this next slide, really a part of SPS that most people are aware of and understand is our ability to automate order data, which, that could be EDI information going between systems. They could be using different formats, but at the core of it, it's order data. It's purchase orders, it's ship notices, invoices, order acknowledgements. We also have other solutions within our platform for managing item data, for managing point of sale data. But really, EDI here is what we are most known for, and it's really what our name has been built upon. And there are really kind of 7 key areas to any EDI solution that you need to account for. Technology is really the table stakes. Everybody that is an EDI provider or an iPaaS solution, they have some sort of technology to help you connect with different systems. But these other 6 areas are really where SPS differentiates ourselves. Is we have the experience working with different retailers, distributors, grocers. We have already pre-designed and configured a lot of their processes. We know who to communicate with and how to communicate with those different retailers. And then really the meat and potatoes of it is, how do we test and launch a solution end to end with a customer, and not just get you off the ground, but also monitor proactively and provide ongoing resources for you as a customer of SPS. With other solutions, you're going to get some subset of these. If you don't have all of them, then this means in all likelihood, it's going to land on your IT team to do the monitoring and analysis with some other tool. You might get a mapping and configuration kit, or you might get a generic middleware piece of technology, but then you have to build the integration to an ERP like NetSuite. So at SPS, we recognize that if you don't have all 7 of these things, you're really missing out and putting a little bit of an extra burden on the company itself to have to kind of deal with these sorts of requirements when that's not really what you're focused on trying to be. You're trying to run your business on a day-to-day, not be an EDI expert. So in order to do that, you can't just have technology. You need to also have the people and the processes documented within that solution. So over the last 20 plus years, we've gone out and we've built that. We have the leading technology solutions. We also partner with partners like ShipHawk to improve and enhance those solutions in the market. But then we also have a team of experts. We have over 100 experts at SPS that they focus exclusively on NetSuite EDI projects. They have a proven process to connect with those retailers and walk our customers through that process. So you don't have to be an expert in EDI. We're going to be able to provide you that expertise. And the reason we've done that is because we know that it's a complex process. So on this next slide, we kind of have these 4 buckets, if you will, where a lot of our customers fall into one or more of these buckets. You might be totally new to EDI. Like I saw some people in that first polling question don't really know what EDI is. You might be getting into different channels, selling direct to consumers, or just now getting into big box retailers that require much more from an EDI perspective. But the last 2 are really where I think we see a lot of our customers is they're getting more and more complex supply chains. So they might be starting to work with 3PLs. They might be building out their own warehouse and bringing that fulfillment process totally in-house. Or often they're going through a system replacement. And as part of that, they need to look at how are we going to fulfill these EDI orders if we have EDI already, or they're bringing a new company into the fold and they need to understand how am I going to get all these orders, have them continue to flow into SPS. So if you're doing that on your own, or if you're using another EDI provider, what you end up building is sort of a bit of a rat's nest, as I've got on this next slide. So you have the complexity of your supply chain, your network, regardless of who those partners are. EDI is sort of the least standard. If you think about every retailer, every buying organization, every channel, they might use an 850 purchase order document. They might use an 855 order acknowledgement, 856 ship notice. But they do them all differently. So not only do you have to figure out everything on the left-hand side, from how you communicate with the partner, if that's through AS2 software, if it's through emails, if it's fax, even still, AS2 software. But then you also have to build those individual maps for the individual purchase orders, ship notices, invoices. And then on the left-hand side, or excuse me, on the right-hand side, you have your system. You have NetSuite. No 2 companies are exactly the same in NetSuite. And so you have to now figure out, okay, how do I get those different formats in and out of my NetSuite environment while still maintaining all of those requirements that my retail partner has? So what we've done at SPS is we've taken that left-hand side of the equation and we've simplified it and standardized it within our network. So instead of having 6 different purchase order formats, or 10, 20, upwards of 100, like some of our customers have, you have a single order format that's going to flow into the NetSuite environment and create that sales order automatically. And instead of having to figure out, okay, how am I getting this information from ShipHawk into NetSuite, back out to my retail partner for 20 different ship notice requirements, you have a single connection with SPS to connect with those customers. To again, you could connect with those suppliers, but it simplifies that process. And SPS sort of sits in the middle of that hub for your supply chain. So it makes automation easier. It makes EDI easier. And so I'm curious now, as we kind of talk about, before I jump into showing you kind of a day-to-day process, how many of you have automated processes today to help handle EDI orders? How many of you are looking to improve that? Or how many of you are just, hey, we need anything to help with that sort of automation? I think as we kind of talk about this at SPS, we see our customers using essentially two solutions possibly with SPS. The one you see on the left here, that screenshot is really our base solution that we call fulfillment. So it's really great for customers that might have low order volume, or they need to be compliant really quickly. Target said, hey, we want to get you into our stores before before the holiday rush here at the end of November. Can you get set up on EDI in just a few business days? We provide the ability to say yes to that question and be able to say, hey, you can be up and running in 5 business days on fulfillment. Now, that's not fully automated with your NetSuite system, but that's really what the NetSuite automation is and means for our customers, is that not only can we say yes quickly to those requests on short notice, but you've got that solution in the NetSuite automation that I'll walk through here in just a second to actually efficiently fulfill those orders. Because like I said, fulfillment's great if you have maybe a lower volume or just 1 or 2 orders a week that are coming in. But as soon as you start getting to the point where, hey, we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 orders every week, we're shipping to multiple locations, distribution centers, it really starts to open you up to the possibility of errors, whether that's just on order entry, but then just transcribing between 2 different systems, all of the information and sending that back. So what we've done, and we'll walk through kind of day in the life, order to cash here now, is we've actually gone and built a solution that lives and breathes within the NetSuite environment. And we implement it with a team of experts, like I said, over 100 individuals at SPS. We've done this over 2,300 times with different customers in different areas, different verticals within NetSuite. And it's been the past 15 years working really closely with NetSuite to actually build this solution and have it be that best-in-class technology like I talked about earlier. Kelly, I will jump into sharing quickly here. Just I think I'll have to ask you to stop sharing, and then I can quick kind of talk through the SPS kind of order to cash before I'll hand it back to you and to Jonathan to walk through some of the ShipHawk stuff. So as I mentioned, at SPS, we've built a solution that lives and breathes within the NetSuite environment. So it's a managed bundle. We have multiple developers on staff constantly making improvements and adding new functionality. But just to kind of walk you through a little bit of a day in the life, some of our customers, they'll come in and they might have SPS as sort of part of their homepage. They might have this separate tab that they're going to work out of. But everything from the SPS solution can be used like any other functionality within NetSuite. You can run reports off of the fields that we're going to add in. But as I talked about, we're in the background standardizing and simplifying those different purchase order formats so that we can then feed them into NetSuite automatically, typically as a pending approval sales order. So that gives your team the ability to actually review these orders, make sure that things like pricing are correct, that all of the items showed up on the sales order as you'd expect, because in the background, we actually have a cross-reference that runs within NetSuite. So as orders come in, you're not just seeing, this random buyer part number from Target or Walmart or whomever. You're actually seeing the item as you have it set up within your NetSuite environment. So it gives you the ability to actually approve that sales order. And then for some customers, they may need to actually send a purchase order acknowledgement, that 855 EDI document. And the way you can do that is you actually edit the sales order within NetSuite. You can select an acknowledgement type. So these are fields that SPS has added into the NetSuite environment. So you think about all that you can do within NetSuite. There are some EDI functions or fields that are required by a lot of partners that, there just isn't a standard space for it in NetSuite. So instead of having to go out and build different sales order records for each customer, you can use the SPS fields in a more standard and normalized way so that your users within NetSuite have the same process, a more efficient process for fulfilling these orders. So they can acknowledge these, they can set an integration status to ready, and then save that. And then within our solution, we're looking for that ready flag. So as soon as our solution sees that ready flag, we're looking to pull that kind of every 1 or 2 minutes, and we pull this record and send it back to the retail partner as that 855 EDI document. So you can say, you've accepted something, you've confirmed different amounts, you've changed pricing. But a lot of the time customers, they don't need to make changes. So they make the acknowledgement, they send it back, and everything that I clicked on there, you could actually automate that as the process. But just so you know, these things happen in the background. It gives you a way to set sort of checks and balances within your fulfillment process to make sure that, yes, we need this to be approved. We need those sales orders to go back as purchase order acknowledgements before we then move into fulfilling the order. So creating an item fulfillment so that from this point, once a user has created an item fulfillment, I'm actually going to pass it back to Jonathan here just to talk through a little bit about how ShipHawk is then going to be able to pull that item fulfillment directly from the NetSuite environment and kind of walk you through what that process day to day looks like in ShipHawk to go ahead and fulfill that order.
Sounds good. So let's go ahead and I want to show you a flow chart. So now that the order has been created in NetSuite and item fulfillment has been generated, it's time for the order to be processed. So I have a flow chart here. I just want to discuss before diving into the details. Please keep in mind that your process might be a little bit different than what I'm describing right here, depending on what's best for your business. One of the great things about ShipHawk is during the sales process, we discuss a variety of different ways that we could meet your needs with our solutions. So going off of that, the first step in order fulfillment that we're working through here is picking the order. This can be accomplished with our WMS or with other WMSs. We work really well with all other major WMSs, but I also just want to point out that we have one ourselves. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But after the order is picked, it's then able to be packed and then processed in our TMS solution. We have a host of different features that help to make the process more efficient and accurate. But today I'm going to be focusing on our ability to automate decisions by suggesting the ideal way to pack the shipment, the ideal way that we suggest it should be shipped, and then also ways that we can help to automate other decisions that need to be made before you book the shipment. We find that for many business-to-business customers that automating these decisions leads to a significant reduction in misships and an increase in order processing times, while also not sacrificing the ability to have specific situations handled appropriately. So after we propose a shipment of how we think that the order should be processed, the user is then able to book the shipment and receive all the required documentation and labels needed for the shipment. So while the user is applying these labels to boxes and then processing that in the warehouse, on the background, ShipHawk is able to then automatically update the item fulfillment record to the ship status and then send all of the required information to SBS to then be sent to the end customer. So starting at the first box I have here, we have our WMS. That takes us to our next slide. So before I talk about the TMS, I just want to mention our WMS a little bit more. So our WMS or our ShipHawk WMS is what we call a tier 1 WMS solution. It offers highly flexible WMS functionality that rivals the most complex WMS software on the market. I can go to the next slide. Using our WMS, users are able to complete all the steps needed in the WMS process, such as put away and picking, and then also packaging and shipping. So during each step in this process, there are significant cost savings in how we optimize the WMS experience. In order to decrease fulfillment costs, it's really paramount to use high quality software to eliminate costs wherever possible, to make sure that you aren't wasting any extra labor costs or time on other steps not necessary. So last slide on WMS, we can move forward. I just have some of the benefits that customers have seen in using our WMS. They've generally, a lot of our customers have noticed greater utilization of their warehouse and labor force after moving to the WMS. Our WMS offers users to officially scan items while picking orders using handheld devices, which significantly reduces mispicks and inaccuracies. Additionally, our WMS works with your warehouse to decrease travel time by placing frequently ordered items closer to packing stations, just making sure that when people are moving around picking items, that they're walking as less as possible, so that things are more efficient. So really, there's a lot of details I can go into in addition to these two examples that I won't have time for today. But if any of these things sound interesting, please reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to set up a call and dive into the details with you. For the purpose of this conversation, I do want to point out that all the functionality that we discuss relating to the TMS SPS integration is also already existing for our WMS solution. So our WMS has its own integration with SPS. So depending on what's best for your system, we might go with that route. So our WMS solution already understands trading partner requirements and is able to generate GS1 labels and conforms to SPS's content requirements in NetSuite. So during our sales process, we work with work with people to figure out what the best solution is, whether it's in our WMS or our TMS. But overall, both solutions work great with SPS. That being said, I want to turn my attention back to our TMS, where we can then talk more about how our TMS solution helps to improve business outcomes. So once orders are picked, they're ready to be packed and shipped. And so whenever the order has been picked and it's ready to be processed, ShipHawk is able to generate a proposed shipment with a recommended packing configuration and carrier a service assignment based on customizable logic. So the first step with that is our smart packing algorithm. So our smart packing algorithm takes in all the information from your system on product dimensions and weights, as well as the boxes that you have in your warehouse. And for every order coming in, we will recommend the ideal way that we think you should be packaging your shipment. So ultimately, what people find with our smart packing algorithm is that they're able to decrease manual steps by having to set up the orders manually in their system. Typing all those dimensions does take time. And so being able to automate that and being able to tell the packers how they should be packaging things helps to really decrease time spent on manual steps with the packing process. Once we have determined how best we think the item should be packed, then we're able to rate the package and rate the shipment. So we use this packing configuration not only for making it easier for packers to see how they should package things, but also for us to be able to rate with carriers and determine and look at all the different rates available. So we use your negotiator rates that you've inputted into our system to be able to see how much it costs to ship at FedEx Ground versus UPS Ground. And then we would be able to select the cheapest carrier and service that meets your needs for that shipment. I want to point out, as far as carrier integrations go to the next slide, that we really have a lot of different parcel and LTL carriers. So while I am talking a little bit more on the parcel side right now, we do have a significant amount of LTL carriers that a lot of customers have gotten some significant value out of. So really, like, having all these integrations help, and having the ability to rate shop allows you to take advantage of all the different rates out there. I know that most people are using FedEx or UPS or USPS, but we also have regional parcel carriers that allow you to further decrease your rates, decrease your shipping costs by using carriers that are regional, and they might offer specific discounts in certain situations. But instead of having a carrier application like FedEx Ship Manager or UPS World Ship that's just for that one specific carrier, users are able to rate shop rates across all the different carriers that they're using. So next, after we have rate shopped and looked at the different rates available, we have the ability to create custom logic in ShipHawk to automate the decision-making process. Instead of leaving decisions to your warehouse workers, you can ensure that all scenarios are covered automatically. So we do have rules that you can use to filter out which carrier gets selected or determine which carrier you want to use. We also have rules that help to automate other decisions that are made along the way as well. So one example I want to point out here, or several examples, is just some of the rules that a lot of our B2B shippers use to automate certain situations. So the main example that I've run into is you have specific requirements or specific needs for a certain customer. So if the customer is Macy's, you might want to process the order in a specific way and have certain information automatically filled out. And so we have that functionality, and we have a lot of customers doing that today. So for example, if the customer is Macy's, I might want to use a specific customer or carrier and service. I might want to use their specific third-party billing details. I might want to use specific packing slip. I might want to use specific accessorials. One of them would be signature required, but there's others that might be useful, especially for LTL. In some situations, you might want to mark up the price that you charge them by 20%. That wouldn't really work well with third-party billing details, but that is something that people do for a lot of B2B use cases. And the last one is probably one of the ones I'm most excited about is picking the cheapest carrier and service that will arrive within 2 days. So this allows people to tell their customers, hey, we're gonna make sure we pick a shipment carrier and service that will arrive within 2 days or within 3 days or within a certain amount of time. And then ShipHawk is able to look between all the different rates available and all the different carriers that you've inputted in our system and select the cheapest carrier and service that will meet that requirement of arriving within 3 days. So that way you can ensure that you're always getting the best rate possible across multiple carriers. So now after ShipHawk has done all these things in the background, the user is able to pull up the order in ShipHawk and process it. So here we just have an example screenshot of what our user interface looks like when someone scans in an order and pulls it up. We have other user interfaces that people can use. I'm going to actually be showing a video on another one later in this discussion. But a lot of users are using this user interface, and here you can see how things were set up with our smart packing as well as with our carrier assignment. So if you go to the next slide, we have a screen where you can actually see how smart packing ran on the proposed shipment, which item were put in which box, and what the dimensions are. I do want to point out that in some situations with our customers, they end up not using smart packing. And in that case, we have a lot of functionality that still provides efficiencies with regards to making it easy to scan in dimensions and scan in boxes. So if smart packing is not for you, we still have a lot of things that help to drive warehouse efficiency. Moving on to the next slide, we have our direct rate shopping user interface. So like I said previously, we are able to rate shop between all the carriers and automatically select a carrier and service. But for other customers, they like to be able to view these carrier rates themselves. And we have a button that would do that for you and show you all the rates available. So what's really nice about this is that you can see all the rates that you could choose for a shipment. And then we also have it ordered in the order of the cheapest to the most expensive. So it's really easy to see the cheapest rates and also see all the other options available for your shipment. So moving on, if everything's good to go, you can click there's a ship button you can click or scan, and once the shipment is booked, the user will then be able to receive all the needed documents for the shipment. We have quite a large number of documentation we support, and all this would be, all this or whatever document should be printing will be printing out automatically with how we have things configured. But really, we're really proud of having a large variety of documentation we support to help to automate a lot of different tasks. We found that a lot of customers end up actually using ShipHawk to replace certain other pieces of software that they're using to generate other pieces of documents, like BOLs or commercial invoices or other international documents. So we have this is just one list, one subset of all the documents that we have, but we have things anywhere from hazmat labels to 4x6 or 8.5x11 packing slips, and additional carrier-specific documentation as well. So anyways, once we have once the order is booked or the shipment is booked, documents start coming out of your printers. We're also on the background writing information back to NetSuite. So there's an automatic process that happens when we update the IF record to the ship status, and we update all the packing information, the shipping information, and all SPS required information. Additionally, ShipHawk is able to automatically generate the ASN after shipment is processed. So this is something you can enable or disable, or you could also have work on a conditional basis with our rules. So for specific customers, you might want to automatically generate the ASN. In other situations, you might not. And so we're able to cover that conditional logic. And the last thing I want to talk about here before I hand things back to Billy is our card label generation. So in ShipHawk and SPS, we both have the ability to generate GS1 compliant card labels. Really, whether you use ShipHawk or SPS for this depends on your use case and what your requirements are. In the WMS, we're able to print card labels after packing each box and after finishing packing and booking the shipment. In our TMS, we're able to do the same thing, either booking the shipment after packing each box. Additionally, in SPS, card labels can be generated after the shipment has been booked in ShipHawk. I'm sure Billy will talk more about that as well. But the last thing I want to show you guys today is one of the features that we've been working on in the past few months is the ability to print out card labels after packing each box. So I have a short video to just show you that in action with the new user interface we've been working on that I'm pretty excited about. So I'm just going to show this to you guys right here. So here we have a user scanning in an order. They're not using smart packing in this instance, but they can. But they're able to put in a packing configuration. And one of the cool things about this workflow is that whenever they're clicking that Save Package button, they will be seeing a card label coming out of their printer. So if you have an order that has 200 cartons, either going LTL or going out parcel, you need to be packaging them one by one. We can help to automate that process and speed things up by having card labels come out one at a time versus all 200 at one time. So you really can start saving some time when you're not having to get a list, get a huge line of a bunch of packages and then print up 200 documents and then start, matching things up. And with that, I'll hand things back to Billy to talk about how things work after the shipment's booked.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, and I can run us through just a few other things from kind of tying off on the actual order to cash process. If I think Kelly, can you stop sharing again, and I'll share my screen quickly just to run through that. Perfect. So as Jonathan outlined, you'll go through and you'll use all of that functionality in ShipHawk in a lot of cases, instead of having to go out and actually like build the shipment again within NetSuite to actually send the ASN. All that information is going to feed back into the NetSuite environment, and it's all going to be recorded directly within those fields, as Jonathan mentioned, where you could print a packing slip if you needed to do that, a branded packing slip for specific customers. As Jonathan mentioned, we also have the ability to batch print labels. But instead of having to go through and add in all of this information about each individual carton and what's packed in each, that information is already going to feed directly into the SPS fields through that integration with ShipHawk. So it's really going to cut down on any of that time of doing double manual entry in one system or another, because not only are you getting the efficiencies in ShipHawk, as Jonathan just walked through, where you can streamline all of that rate shopping and the actual packing and shipping. It'll tell you how to pack everything. That's then just going to get recorded into the SPS fields within NetSuite. Whereas with other systems, you'd have to build out this custom packages section, or you'd have to be using someone to actually transpose the information from one system to another. This way, it's actually going to come in, it's going to be marked as shipped, and you can straight into the billing process. So creating the actual ship notice can happen automatically on that page. So you could create the ship notice by clicking a button. Most customers, they trigger that automatically through a workflow or a script, and then they move into that invoicing process where, again, we have an integration status that can be set automatically. So anytime you create, an invoice for, in this case, Walmart, it could be set to that ready status automatically. The user saves that invoice, and then that status is going to update based on when it's been sent. So once our solution pulls that from the NetSuite environment, and then actually we can update this record with the acceptance from those different retailers. So when they send back that 997 order acknowledge or document acknowledgement, we can actually feed that back to trigger the integration status within NetSuite. So again, you can use these fields that we've added into the NetSuite environment as part of regular reporting. So you can have that show up in separate sections here within SPS. So you can see ASN exports. You can see if you've sent, you have to send 846 inventory advices. You can see those exports here within the system. All of that is happening as really a byproduct of what you're doing within the NetSuite system to fulfill those orders and get them out the door. So EDI truly becomes that byproduct, so that, again, you're not having to do multiple entries of the same information in multiple systems. So we've worked really hard together to develop and deliver this seamless solution to really maximize efficiencies and simplify that process for the NetSuite user so that they have a consistent process regardless of where that order originated from, whether it is, an e-commerce order, a Shopify order, an order from an EDI partner. Those return documents from an EDI perspective truly become a byproduct of that process within the NetSuite environment. I did see one or two questions in the chat, I think in the Q&A, that I think have been answered. So I guess I don't have to hit on those. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, Billy, absolutely. I can kind of address some of the questions that came in, and there, a couple extras or a couple others that y'all might be able to answer. Definitely feel free to submit your questions in the chat or the Q&A box. We'll answer those. Someone was asking about how long, about how long, how much time you think an integration like this is able to save. I'm assuming they're probably talking about onboarding new partners. And I know we, kind of recently talked about some feedback customers have shared with us, and just wanted to kind of see what you could share with the audience.
Yeah, one of the other questions I think that was asked was about like the level of orders that it makes sense to do this. Like, when does it make sense to actually do these sorts of automations? But the time savings and the number of orders, it's sort of the same answer to some degree, but there's obviously differences. It depends. We see a lot of customers saving. I think the one that we have most recently, they're saving 20 hours a week with an individual using the SPS and ShipHawk solution. So they're freeing up half the week for that person to spend less time on doing the manual process back and forth from the shipping and EDI perspective. So they're able to get much more done in terms of getting orders out the door. We've also had customers who, they've got tens of orders every day, if not hundreds of orders every day, that come in with, 50, 60, 70 line items on them. They're saving up to 90% of their time because they're eliminating all of that manual entry, figuring out which order has to come, which line item, which order comes in. So they're gaining huge efficiencies there just on order entry, but obviously also on fulfilling of those orders and saving time on the packing. So they've actually reported individuals saving almost 90% time, and so they're almost doubling output for those users. So it really depends on the complexity of the orders, which can depend on things like, does a customer need you to send to multiple distribution centers? Jeff, you hit on the exact transition that I was going into. So we can split those purchase orders into multiple sales orders. So based on ship to locations, that's something that we actually have built in our network. We call it a splitter map. And we can say, based on this segment, we know you're having to ship these items to these different locations. So that order can come in as multiple sales orders and then flow through that process that we've kind of walked through. You do also have the ability to send consolidated ship notices. So if you are shipping to those different locations as an end point, but you're having to ship through a distribution center, a single distribution center. So a lot of times it's called marked for orders, or they're called cross dock orders, shipping to one distribution center, but it's going to 20 different stores. We have the ability to support that consolidated shipping process as well. So it does give you that flexibility depending on those different customers and their requirements. The number of orders, it really depends on how much time is it taking you to input it. We have some customers that, they just want this process to be consistent throughout. They might only get, 5-6 orders a week. It's worth it from a time savings to do it. Some of them, they might be getting 5, 10, 20 orders a day, but they're 1 or 2 items and they do it pretty quickly in our fulfillment solution. So they might not need the automation yet. But for the vast majority of our NetSuite customers, it's about 80%. They do use the automation solution because it does just provide such time savings on a day-to-day basis with order entry and things like that. We do have connections for FBA. Robin, I see that question. Oftentimes it'll depend on your exact specifics with Amazon, but in a lot of cases, they might just be sending those, they release a sale or release a purchase order that we file in as a sales order into NetSuite. You're not required to send back like an invoice or a ship notice, obviously, because they're doing the fulfillment, but we feed that sales order in. A lot of times customers will have an automation or a workflow in place to just auto approve that sales order, decrement inventory, so that you can keep track of that for when you need to replenish that inventory at that Amazon location, because they don't send that fulfillment or that replenishment order. They just rely on you to manage that inventory. So we do have the ability to send in those orders as a sales order so you can decrement inventory correctly.
Yeah, I'd also want to add that on the ShipHawk side, we support Sourceful Prime, and we work with Vendor Central all the time. So we work with Amazon if we're not doing fulfillment by Amazon.
Awesome. Any other questions? We've got a few more minutes if y'all want to stick around and ask a few more questions. If we didn't get to your question today, we will certainly follow up with you. Excuse me. And please, you can email learnmore@shiphawk.com for any questions. And we can also, we'll share those with SPS and make sure everybody gets the information they're looking for. Excuse me. I'm got a little bit of a cold. Looks like people are asking little specific questions. If we can work with other ERPs, we certainly can. NetSuite is definitely the most robust integration, I would say, but we can certainly integrate with additional ERPs. And if you have specific ones you want to reach out, we can have somebody get in contact with you with more information. And while we're wrapping up, excuse me, let me get some water. While we're wrapping up and while y'all take a few more minutes to input any last questions, I do want to remind everybody that we'll all be at SuiteWorld, as well as Community Summit coming up in a couple of weeks, where teams are going to be in Charlotte and in Vegas at both of these events. So certainly make sure to come by and check us out. I'm going to drop a link in the chat to everyone if you would like to set up some time prior to SuiteWorld. You can go to our landing page and book a time. Go ahead and book a time slot with our team that will be there. And again, SPS will be there right alongside us, so we can certainly help answer any of your questions there as well.
Just two quick ones. Roy, you had two questions about using another van and then the location warehouse at the NetSuite line level. We don't require at the line level. Some customers may have it set up like that. That's not I don't believe that's any issue to use that. So that shouldn't be a problem. We would work with you on that as part of the process. And then in terms of using other EDI providers or other vans, we do have a number of customers that they currently use another provider, or they just have a van and they might do some of the mapping themselves into their system. Oftentimes a customer that moves over to SPS, they would actually eliminate the cost of using another van, because as I mentioned earlier, as a full service EDI provider, we have all of the communication layers built out. We have all of those van connections, AS2 connections. So that would be included in the SPS service as you sign up with SPS. So you would actually eliminate that cost of having to use another third-party van or another third-party EDI provider, because we'll go and connect directly with that retail partner however they want to. And actually, if you have that access to your raw data, it gives us an advantage in the testing process, where we can use some previous orders to test with you before we go and set everything live on the SPS side of things. So can be a good advantage actually if you have that access. So thanks for asking. And then one last thing, I guess I'll answer it live, but Trishanda, I believe you asked about speaking with an SPS account manager. That is who you'd want to speak with. If you don't know who that is, feel free to reach out to me with company name and everything, and I can get you in touch with the right person. And that would actually help us out to make sure we know you heard about it here on the webinar. That always helps us as we look to do more of these to help expand the knowledge base of our customers. I'd love to be able to introduce you to the account manager if you don't know who it is, but if you do already, feel free to reach out to them straight off the bat. Just I'd ask that you tell them you heard it here on the webinar, please.
Awesome. I think we've answered most of the questions that I've seen coming through the Q&A or through the chat. Like I said, if we did not answer your question on the webinar today, we will definitely make sure our team reaches out to get you all the information. I really appreciate everyone and your involvement and submitting all the great questions to our team. Really glad you all joined us today. Again, there'll be a survey that pops up at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to share any feedback with us. And like I said, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to email us at learnmore@shiphawk.com. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
And thanks, guys. Appreciate all the information today.
See ya.